I like this fight. I think this fight is a sleeper good fight, and it's the reason I only say sleeper good fight is because it's. I think it could still be the fight that everybody expected in the first one, and it never happened.
Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. It's also the best way to watch our great fights here on ProBox TV. So, Oscar Valdez trying to put an exclamation point on his 12-year career. That's right, this weekend taking on Emanuel Navarrete in a rematch. Now, these two fighters, their last fights have kind of gone in different directions, maybe some question marks heading into this fight. But the big question, of course, after the Sonny Edwards fight is, could Valdez be in a similar position with a loss this weekend? Is it, as we say in pro wrestling back in the day, loser leaves town kind of fight where it might be the end of his career? To help me answer those questions, the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. Chris, I'll start with you. For Valdez, is it win or go home? In terms of, you might have some entertaining fights, but after 12 years might be the end of the road. What's your thought?
I mean, I feel like that's an overused cliche, but I think in this case it actually stands. Yeah. And listen, you said there's a lot of questions about these guys in their last performances. There was no question in their first fight. Navarrete won, and he won handily. And I think that was a big blow to Oscar Valdez. It was an all-Mexican clash. Both guys around the same age. Navarrete a little bit younger. You know, Valdez trying to get his titles back. They were expecting an all-out blood and guts Mexican war, and it just was not that. Navarrete was pretty good at shutting down Valdez. And we've talked about this since then. And, you know, in interviews, he's like, I just had a wrong game plan. I was just falling in love with the left hook. I was trying to knock him out. He's going to be smarter in this fight. But we'll see, man. He's had a long career between the amateurs, the pros, the amount of tough fights that he's been in. He's been in wars, and he's got a lot of professional rounds under his belt. Whereas Navarrete, even though he's seems more of like a banger Mexican style fighter, you know, he hasn't been in that many tough fights. You know, he's been pretty dominant in these lower weight classes. Even when he went up at 35 to lose to Dennis Baranchyk, he just looked off, and he was getting outboxed and outworked. It wasn't like he was getting really beat up. So I would say Navarrete is probably the fresher man going into this fight. And I think if Valdez was to lose another Mexican matchup, I think it would be a real blow to him in his career and what he's done in his sport. Because, I mean, listen, his career is stellar. And he's a commentator now as well. So there's life after boxing. He's only 32, but based on his miles, you know, he's an old 32.
Yeah, when you look at it, Paulie, to piggyback off Chris's point where he's got to change things up a little bit, he acknowledges he has to change things up. How hard is it to change things up after the career he's had, the hours he's put into the gym? How is it for the Leopard to kind of change his spots a little bit for this fight? What's your thought?
I don't think he's got to necessarily change his spots. I think he's got to change his spots from what he was thinking in that fight. I think he was too one-punch knockout happy, you know, maybe coming fresh off the Burchelt fight. It hadn't been that much after the Burchelt fight where he had that huge knockout. I think it was more of a mindset problem than it was any tactical things, you know, and then, of course, the mindset bleeds into your tactics. But I think I think Valdez has enough versatility to where if he's not on a one-track mind where he's being, you know, so stubborn about the way he was trying to knock you out, I think Valdez can sort of mix it up a little bit and create a problem. We saw with Navarrete, champ, you made a good point. Didn't really look like the size at lightweight that bothered Navarrete. It was just, you know, maybe the tactics of Baranchyk, you know. So, but Navarrete is susceptible to being flustered, susceptible to being a little bit, you know, put out of his element just by, you know, certain kind of tactics that don't have to be Shakur Stevenson type of tactics. You know, they can just be certain specific kind of tactics. I don't feel like it's beyond the comprehension that Valdez can put together a game plan that can fluster Navarrete. You remember, I picked Navarrete to win the first fight when I think he was an underdog. You know, so I'm not sure.
And I picked Valdez. I thought Valdez was going to do another Burchelt style performance.
Yeah, well, that's why he was trying to fight the way he was. Maybe he heard you, champ. You know, you got in his head, and he's trying to get that one-track mind knockout, and he never got it, right? So,
but he set that knockout up, though. That was my point. I thought because Burchelt at that time was an axe murderer. The way he was coming and chopping guys down, that version of Burchelt was very scary. And I think Valdez used his feints, used the jab, set up that big monster hook. So I was expecting more of that kind of performance, and we just did not get that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that there's still different pathways these two can travel together and make a fight that, you know, maybe may not even resemble the first fight. I don't think it's beyond the beyond our imagination and things that, we could have that Mexican war that we were looking to get in the first fight. We may still get that in the second fight. Where both guys are at a point in their careers where Navarrete is sort of on a dud streak here, where it's like, oh, dude, you know what? Are you what we thought we were, or not? And so he's got to get motivated and say, yes, I am what you started to crown me as. I have to get back and prove that. And Valdez, like you guys are saying, could it be a loser goes home type of fight where people say, okay, he lost, and it's he's sort of on a decline. Listen, one thing Valdez proved is he looked like that after the first fight. The first loss, you're like, all right, maybe he's, if you were looking at Valdez, if Valdez puts up that kind of performance in this fight, then you start to think, okay, maybe he doesn't have it anymore. But he put up that kind of performance in the first fight and then actually performed after that fight,
Yeah.
So, you can never really count out a guy like this, and there's been other fighters in boxing that this has happened to, where you start looking at them, you're like, oh man, this could be the end. And then they sort of rehabilitate themselves a little bit, and they extend their careers. I like this fight. I think this fight is a sleeper good fight. And the reason I only say sleeper good fight is because I think it could still be the fight that everybody expected in the first one, that it never happened. And I think that's why it's a sleeper, because now, because the first one was such a dud, people don't really expect much of this one. I think I think we could get the barn burner we were looking for in the first fight.
And champ, in which case we might have a rubber match as well. Have a trilogy, a great all Mexican trilogy.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to ask you, you talked about Sonny Edwards and his loss last Saturday, where he retired, didn't want to fight anymore. The willingness to go to dark places in order to win. Do you believe that Valdez, in this fight against Navarrete, Chris, do you think he's going to have to go to some dark places at some point in this fight?
Absolutely. He's and going to dark places doesn't necessarily just mean like you get hit with big shots or fight tough or just bite down your mouth. Going to dark places just means being uncomfortable. And he might have to fight in a style and a strategy in this fight that's going to be uncomfortable for him. God, it's easier to go out there and just swing bombs, guys. Boxing is more difficult. It is very uncomfortable to go out there and stay disciplined and box for 12 rounds. So if he's willing to do that, and he has the skill set, he's got a fantastic amateur background. Again, I'm going to bring up that Berchelt fight again. I mean, we saw smart tactics and setting traps. If he can be that guy one more time, yeah, I would favor him in this fight. I think skill set wise and what he can do, I mean, he's phenomenal. But Navarrete he's such a beast, and I think a lot of this is going to come down to which version of each of these men show up on Saturday night. If Oscar can go back in his bag and utilize his skills, he's got a good shot. If Navarrete is not the guy that we saw in the Dennis Baranchak fight, if he actually makes the weight healthfully, I think I would favor him. This is a great fight. I agree with you, champ. I think this does have the propensity to possibly be that all blood and guts action Mexican warrior fight that we were looking for the first time, which first time was kind of a letdown. But I'm looking forward to this fight quite a bit.
Well, if you need an X's and O's breakdown, go to our YouTube channel. We did a big fight breakdown on this fight. Check it out. Also, listen to us in the afternoon. Listen to this fight at night. That's right, ProBox TV coming at you from Ireland. Right now on ProBox TV, it is going to be a great main event. Ireland versus Ireland. Then check out Valdez versus Navarrete later at night. But start your day with ProBox TV. Check it out.
ProBox TV Contender Series. On December 7th, look for an all-out Irish war as Dylan the Real Deal Moran battles Tyrone the Mighty Celt McKenna at the top of a stacked ProBox-worthy card.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.